one of the actors talking to one of the others, and she says it's an intellectual musical, which had me rolling around. It's like, no, it's not. It's not an intellectual musical. So welcome back. Happy New Year. My name is Phil Marriott. If you love music and movies, this is the channel for you. So make sure you subscribe. Plenty of movie reviews over the next few weeks, including this one, which is Stagefright. I have to say, Paul Joseph is here. Hey, Paul. Happy New Year.
Hello.
Happy New Year.
Stagefright. Is this a film you're familiar with? Because I know that you, like me, a massive horror fan, particularly of the 80s horror genre. Well, that decade of amazing horror movies.
You know, when you first talked to me about it, I was like, do I know this one? Because quite often some of these films you read the description of, and then they're also sort of like an Italian co-production with a different name, and you're like, well, I'm sure I have seen one that's set in a theatre with a... and I was thinking of the film I'd seen, and it actually wasn't that. So no, I hadn't seen this film, so I got to enjoy it fresh.
But you're right there, because this does have a few names. I think it's otherwise known as Aquarius. I think Delirium or something. Deliria. Yeah, Stagefright. It's just been remastered, 4K, upgraded for 2022. In fact, it came out last month, but just at the end of last month. So yeah, 4K restoration. Lots of special features on the Blu-ray edition. Quite an interesting setup actually here, because I didn't really know much about this director, but it's Michele Soavi, Italian director who I think started his career working as an assistant for Dario Argento, which is quite interesting. So obviously he had a good education to start in movies. This is his first feature, and I know that he wasn't quite ready to direct a film, but he got the opportunity, so he grasped it. 1987.
Admirable first feature.
Yeah, I think so too. It stars David Brandon, who is an Irish actor who was in Jubilee. Do you remember the punk movie from Derek Jarman?
I remember the film, but I don't remember that actor in it.
Barbara Cupisti, she's an Italian actress. I think she's a director now. She starred in a film called Opera. I think that's a Dario Argento movie from the late 80s.
That's the thing I was thinking about. That's the one. That's the other. That's the when we were talking about this film and I saw the review, the thing about. That's Opera is the film I was thinking about, because that has people being stalked in an opera.
Right. So she plays the protagonist. She plays Alicia.
First of all, it has one of those things that I hate/love, which is like theatre in film, or like musical in film, or kind of fiction in film. So it's a very ambitious director staging or rehearsing a weird hybrid rock opera musical extravaganza, and he's really intense. Amidst all that, somehow a serial killer kind of gets into the building and starts bumping someone off. There's various contrivances, which means that they're all locked in the theatre to rehearse intensely for the whole weekend. So it does start off with some really amazing / awful 80s serious, sexy kind of like dancing and moving and kind of drama.
Oh my God, I love it. It's so over the top. The kills are over the top. The music is really over the top. It's got that kind of heavy synth, like really dramatic like score, which is proper jazz hands, isn't it? Yeah. But it has that feel, obviously, because it's an Italian film. It's got that weird thing that I've seen in a lot of other films, where obviously there's a lot of British or Irish actors in this, and some of it seems dubbed and some of it doesn't. Some of it seems like they're actually, you know, speaking English language, but some of it, it's weird. It's like a real mixture of the two.
I mean, sometimes that happens, you know, they'll do the dubbing over stuff anyway, even if sometimes the dialogue's not very clear, or, you know, the classic, who was it, Glenn Close, Andy McDowell thing, where they just don't sound very good. But yeah, it means some bits seem, you know, some dialogue, particularly between two of the, like, actresses, seem very over the top. They're talking to each other like this, and it's all very loud, and, you know, it's... Yeah, so it's odd, but entertaining.
I just found myself obsessed by watching their mouths talking, because I was trying to figure out if it had been dubbed or whether it was actually words that they were speaking, because it's almost like the mouth was delayed, but it was speaking English, which was weird. It's like, why does that happen? But anyway, I've got to say from the start that I have a fear of owls, so that's not great going into Stagefright, because obviously it's about a masked killer who obviously on stage is... There, yeah, he's there. There. Even just looking at that on the screen is terrifying me.
The killer makes a good boogeyman. In, you know, that's a striking figure to be kind of stalking people around theatre, and, you know, it does have that sense of menace, and of course, it also without giving too much away, it also has its cake and eats it with some of the sort of planned theatre scenes they're rehearsing. Some of them include violence or murder, so you do get that like, oh my god, is that person actually being really murdered? That's not the actor, that's the, and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of good fun to be had with that, and it's a good menacing character to be wandering around with his axe.
So the director has to change the script because there's been a murder at the beginning. You see Alicia spraining her ankle. She needs to go and get medical attention, so she's gone to a nearby hospital, but lo and behold, obviously the nearby hospital isn't just a hospital, it's a mental hospital. So we see we see carnage starting from from that scene on, and we do see quite a gruesome murder. I mean, it's an axe right in the face, proper full on.
And it's that kind of like that sort of horror where the gore is very severe and choppy, but it's not like the sustained sort of torture porn, drawn out. It's literally just like, and then that's it. But it's kind of it's brutal, and and obviously that setup means that you do quite early on. You then have this serial killer who's escaped from the institution, who is within the premises where they're rehearsing, and as you say, the director decides to change the script to because it's already kind of about murder and violent stuff, but change it so that the lead character is the person who's been murdered, so that there's a huge box office draw. They change it so that the character in the play is the actual real serial killer.
Exactly,
not knowing that he's still in the building, because he's so intense, and they're all a bit like, oh, we want to go home because there's just been someone murdered here. He locks the door and says, you're going to rehearse. We're opening on Monday and you're going to rehearse the whole weekend, and throws away the key. And then, of course, when the serial killer comes, they're trapped in the building. Yeah,
because I think is it Corinne, one of the actors, she hides the key. And I think that's why they can't get out. So obviously they're inside. And I kind of love that, because we've seen that so many times before. I mean, it is a proper horror trope, isn't it? It's like, you said, you hate that whole kind of like musical and theatre inside the film. And
I said love/hate.
Oh, okay, love/hate. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it just reminded me of Demons. I don't know if you saw Demons from, I think that was late 80s or mid 80s.
Argento. Yeah. And also, if you think about the opening scene of Scream 2 is in the cinema. And then, of course, Scream 2 also she's in a play at college. So again, it has the sort of fake play within the film that's always just like really ridiculous.
Quite a few laughs as well. There's proper lols in this movie, because there was one quote, and I quote, one of the actors talking to one of the others, and she says it's an intellectual musical, which had me rolling around. It's like, no, it's not. It's not an intellectual musical. And of course, you've got a background in theatre because you work in theatre. You do a lot of pantos and comedy theatre, and you write theatre. And I was thinking about you quite a lot during watching this movie.
Wow. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I mean, the stuff I do, it's like panto and more cabaret, and I did do drama at university and stuff. So I do like stuff that sort of pokes fun of that. Well, to be honest, it's not. I don't think it's intentionally poking fun at theatre and theatrical pretension. I think it's delivering it quite seriously, but it is quite fun to enjoy.
But no, I thought of you quite a lot, because I thought, maybe this will inspire you, because obviously you've got Pop Horror, your club night in Vauxhall at the RVT, and it just made me think, maybe wonder if you had been inspired after watching this film I
could do a really meta Pop Horror where it's like
exactly.
Pop Horror, but then the doors get shut, and it's like, we were putting on a show for you, but now there's a serial killer in the building, and we can't get out.
Got a very loose connection to Showgirls. I don't know if you thought that as well, because there's a bit of rivalry going on in this film.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of wig as well.
And the saxophonist, which is on the stage, and that wig is flying in the wind machine.
That's all really entertaining, all of that. And then it does get into its stride as being the kind of gang of people getting bumped off, running round. Someone gets bumped off, they all run somewhere else, someone else gets bumped off. And then I think it does then slip into the sort of trope of one singular heroine being stalked around the building on her own for probably a bit longer than is entertaining.
The final girl.
I mean, bless her, the final girl isn't the most charismatic actress. But generally in these films, I find the bit where unless the heroine is a heroine you really like, unless it's a Jamie Lee Curtis or a Neve Campbell or, Adrienne Barbeau or some of those amazing Scream Queen type characters, if they're not very engaging, you're not rooting for them as much when it's that final protracted sequence of them one-on-one versus the the killer.
However, you don't really care that much.
I don't necessarily want to give away, but they do. It's quite a fun setup at the end in terms of seeing some of the people who've been killed already.
See, I think there are moments of hilarity, quite a few moments actually, particularly during the death scenes, because the death scenes nobody seems bothered by when people are bumped off. It's like that moment when they're in the dressing room and, you know, the doorknob is twisting slowly, and the girl, without spoiling things, the girl falls through the floorboards. I'm not saying what happens to her, but what was that game that kids had back in the 80s? Is it Mousetrap?
Mousetrap, yeah.
It's almost like Mousetrap. It's like you can see these things happening, and when they do, it's just all part of the fun. It's like a proper fun horror film. I think if you've got mates around and you've got beers, I think it's an entertaining horror flick.
If you like horror as a genre and enjoy the fun of it as well, and particularly like 80s sort of stuff, it's very enjoyable, and it looks amazing, as in the crispness of it. With films from the 70s and 80s, if the print's not that good, it can be a bit almost, you know, we're so used to such high quality sound and visuals and audio that it can be a bit off-putting, but it does look great. So it's definitely one that, you know, when I was sharing a house with mates years ago, and we used to go to Blockbuster Video and get something to watch. I'm aging myself there.
Cultural reference for the kids there.
Yeah. I think, you know, we'd get sort of Friday night, get 3 videos, start off with a good one, and then a not so good one, and then you know, one that we'd watch at 1 o'clock in the morning. Having a few beers, it would be that. I wouldn't say it's got the crossover appeal that would draw in non-horror fans. Because
I had an ear infection at the time, and I was just lying on the sofa and I just was kind of grossed out by it.
How was all that sax on your infected ear?
Actually, surprisingly okay, because you did warn me about that. You said, "Oh, that's not going to go down well with your earache."
Yeah, it's quite in your face, the whole thing. I mean, because actually, the play that they're rehearsing has a good 6, 7 minute sequence at the beginning of just that, and, you know, like a murder happening and killing, and you think it's a horror film, and it's like, oh no, it's actually all on stage. And cut.
My other half, Jeremy, kept wandering through, because he was in the other room, and he was wandering through as I was watching it, and he was like, "What are you watching? This is terrible." I was like, I love it because it's terrible, but, you know, it wasn't actually that bad. I thought it was, like we said earlier, right at the start, it was a good directorial feature debut.
The worst thing a horror film can be is boring. So
there we go. Didn't bore me, never bored me.
If it engages you and entertains you, even if it's not engaging and entertain you in the way they originally thought it might, that's still good in my book.
So there we go. It's called Stagefright. It is out now. It came out on the 27th of December. It's available on Blu-ray and on demand digitally. Check all the links down there.
I'm really bad at my mirror. I'm trying to point at the Stagefright thing, but there.
Let us know if you've seen it, if you're about to see it, what your favourite horror film is from the 80s. I mean, so many to choose from. Maybe we can delve back and do some classics on the next one.
Or like a rundown of favourite kills in 80s horror movies.
Oh, now you're talking.
Now, if we were to cover Slaughter High, which I think is one of my favourite 80s horror films.
Hasn't that been remade? I think that's coming out again, isn't it?
Oh.
They've rebooted it. Yeah. Is that Slumber Party Massacre?
The Slumber Party Massacre. There was the Slumber Party Massacre. There's Sorority House Massacre.
Try saying that after a few gins.
There's the House on Sorority Row. There's Slaughter High. There's Prom Night 2, Prom Hello Mary Lou, which is my favourite of that sequence. But yeah, Slaughter High is a really great group of people in a sort of abandoned building for a particular reason and lots of creative kills in it.
Oh, so let's do it. I'm up for it, if you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we dancing? I'm asking.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Paul. Happy New Year. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye now.